Right. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wal ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Today we're going to be doing, it does work. Today we're going to be doing the 14th and the 15th name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is Al-Khaliq and Al-Khallaq. So, another word, another form of the same noun is Khaliq. So Khalaq and Khaliq and Khaliq. So linguistically, Al-Khaliq means to build or to make something. We generally follow, we have a new friend in our class today. I think you all know her. She's the program manager for the women's program. So we follow a certain format in the class where we start off with what the name means linguistically and then we build up upon it. So linguistically, khalaqa means to build or to make. So it's been mentioned 11 times. Al-Khaliq has been mentioned 11 times in the Quran. Huwa Allahu al-Khaliq al-Bari al-Musawwir. That's the same ayah from Surah Al-Hashr that we've been reading, and we've already covered the names that come after it and before it. Also, فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. Glory be to God, the best of creators. Is it working? Okay. So Al-Khallaq or Khaliq is actually the superlative form of Khaliq, right? So we're talking about being able to form, not just form something or create something, but to be able to form or create something out of nothing. Okay, that's a superlative degree of Khaliq or being a creator. So inna rabbaka huwa al-khallaqul alim, bala huwa al-khallaqul alim. So he is the all-knowing creator. So that's the superlative form of Khaliq. So how does this pertain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Same concept that we talked about when we talked about creating before. When we talked about it, we read the ayah kun fayakun. It was in one of the names. When we talked about al-iz, I think the power that he has the power to create something out of nothing. So the same concept applies over here, that Al-Khaliq is the one who brings everything from non-existence to existence. And we spoke about how that's different from how man creates something, right? Maria, do you remember what we spoke about when we said what does man need to create something? What all would he need? He would need different kinds of resources, right? He would need raw material. He might need people to help him. If he doesn't know how to do it himself, he might have to outsource it, right? He would need money to buy the raw material, etc. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't need any raw material. He doesn't need any resources, right? He creates something. He creates non-existence. He changes it into existence. So today's class is fairly short, and since this name is, it's not a very complicated name as some of the names we've done in the past, like Muhaymin, for example, that required a little more, brain power. So here, for the next, 15 minutes or so, I'm just going to be bringing different ayahs from the Quran that talk about the different forms that Allah has created, the different aspects of creation. Okay? So this is in Yasin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّا خَلَقْنَا لَهُم مِّمَّا عَمِلَتْ أَيْدِينَا أَنْعَامًا فَهُمْ لَهَا مَالِكُونَ. Can they not see how, among the things made by our hands, we have created livestock they control? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about one of his greatest favors to mankind, which is, do you guys know what livestock is, girls? Like cattle, sheep, right? So that's one of the greatest favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on mankind. How? not just food, right? There's so many things you can do with livestock. Sheep, wool, fur, cheese, right? And so on. And so on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the creation of the cattle, did mankind have any role? No. Did we get to say, oh, make it like this, or make it like that, or make it do this, or make it do that? No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it. Why? So that we could benefit from it. And then once He created it, not only that, He also made man the owner of the livestock. So once you own that livestock, you can do anything you want with it, right? We see all these videos of how, the hen pens in the farm, or how cattle is kept. I mean, some of these conditions are not very pleasing, right? They say that the hen pens, usually they're so packed that like the beaks are literally like poking each other. They're so such bad conditions. So just imagine that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made all these resources for us, and that it's like almost like, I make something and then I make you the complete owner of it. And I have no, obviously if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the sheep to die, that's a different matter. But the day-to-day runnings, you get what I'm saying? Like what the cat, well, we have 4 cats, so I think that's why I'm always thinking about cats. 3 now. What the cattle is going to eat, or what when, for example, if they're horses, what time are they going to be let out to stray, etc., etc. Those things. Who's the malik? Who's the owner? It's man, right? And that's very important for us to remember, that when Allah has given us all these resources, what should we do in turn? Right. Well, that we should do. Take care of them, right? Because He has made us the owner of these things. Moving forward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Al-Qamar, Inna kulla shay'in khalaqnahu bi qadrin. Qadar, linguistically, the qadar, like literally qadar means measure or proportion. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made everything in its proportion, in its measurement. Can you imagine what would we look like if, as we grew taller, our head would also get bigger? What do you think we'd look like every year? Like, oh, I grew 3 inches, but also like my head grew like either this way or that way, right?
That would be the norm, though.
But would that just imagine, right? Or like if we're growing and our limbs are also growing with us every year. But that doesn't happen. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept everything in its proper proportion, in the measurement, right? Like these fingers, there's a reason why they're all not the same length, because every finger has its own purpose, right? If all fingers were as short as our thumb, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of things with our hands that we take for granted. We spoke about how if somebody didn't have a thumb, like imagine picking something up if you don't have a thumb. Like I'm holding this, I don't think I'll be able to hold anything. I wouldn't have my grip if I didn't have my thumb. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like I said, has created every species, big or small, every species, big or small, varying in size, but in its proportion. Everything inside our body also is meant to be flexible, meant to be stretchable, so that we can keep growing. Like just imagine, like my son, Asya Maria's brother, he has been walking on his toes for years now. Like he's a toe walker. So what has happened now is that his calf has, from here, both his legs, it's become so tight that he stands like this, and he's not growing in length because it's almost like it's too tight. You get what I'm saying? So now he needs to have surgery. He has surgery in May. Please pray for him. So they're just basically going to stretch the muscle out so that it can, just, and I always think about the naqatullah. You remember the camel that they cut from here? It's almost like that, and they're going to like stretch his muscle. They're going to make a cut so it stretches, and so then he'll be able to he'll be able to stretch his leg, and he'll be able to grow in height. So just imagine these small things. You don't even think about them, right? Until something like this happens to you and you realize the importance of the calf. If this is like rigid and not growing, that's going to hinder your entire gait. His whole back is affected, his hips are affected because of this problem. So just small things to keep in mind every day. We use our body without even considering what all it's doing for us. So another aspect of creation, الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض ولم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك وخلق كل شيء فقدره تقديرا. Again, فقدره قدر تقديرا. Again, we're talking about measure and proportion. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Al-Furqan, it is He who has control over the heavens and the earth. And He has no offspring, no one shares control with Him, and who created all things and made them to be to an exact measure. So in the previous ayah, we were talking about man, the creation of man, and how it is in proportion, right? In this ayah, we're talking about the heavens and the earth, and how everything is in a certain proportion, right? And how everything in the heavens, I mean, heavens, inshallah, we'll get to it, but in the earth, for example, like in our homeland, everything is here to benefit us. Like the form and the structure it's in, there's a reason behind it. Like the earth, for example, the ground we walk on, if it were liquid, in the liquid form, everything would sink, we would drown in it. So it's not in a liquid form, but it's also not made of steel or concrete. Because if it were made out of steel or concrete, we wouldn't be able to dig. The form of the structure is, as Goldilocks. Do you guys remember Goldilocks and the Three Bears? Like, it's just right. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. So it's just right because you can, the surface is hard enough for you to walk on without sinking, but it's also soft enough for you to dig so that you can dig out wells and streams, and also to be able to hold a solid, like, concrete building like this. So just think about all these, when you think of the name Al-Khaliq, sometimes we don't think about what all it's encompassing. We just think, oh, Allah created us, yeah, okay. But it's not just about what He created, it's also about how He created it, how everything is perfect in proportion and measure. And another beautiful ayah. And then a little scary one too. Yes, Maria. So it says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Anbiya, يَوْمَ نَتْوِسْ السَّمَاءَ قَطَّيَّ السِّجْلِ الْكُتُبِ. Sijil means like script of paper. Okay? So Sijl al-Kutub is like scroll. You guys know what scroll is? And do you know how scrolls are rolled up? Right? And we see in movies sometimes that messengers are sent to like a king, and then there's a scroll and you open it and it goes on the floor. So on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to roll up the heavens and the earth. We shall reproduce creation just as we produced it the first time. So, there are several hadiths that tell us that on Yawm al-Qiyamah, we're going to be brought back. We're going to be resurrected. The ones who did not survive till Yawm al-Qiyamah, the ones who already passed away, they're going to be made again. And if He can make them once earlier, why cannot He do it again? Right? It's like when you've already done something once, isn't it? Like, what's the problem? You can do it again, right? So the one thing, when we come back to the scrolls, there's a hadith in Bukhari that that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will roll up the 7 heavens and the 7 earths, and every creation that's in the 7 heavens and the 7 earth within it. So just imagine as if we're the writing on the scroll, and the scroll is wrapped up. So everything is just going to be rolled up, and He's going to put it on His hand, and the proportion of that scroll to His hand is going to be like a grain of rye on His hand. That scroll, the 7 heavens, the 7 earth, and everything in it, when He rolls it up and He puts it in His hand, it's not going to be more than a grain of rye. It just makes us really think about how big do you really think we are? Yes. And you know those videos, have you seen those? They show it like, you know, if they ever, I don't know, on YouTube I've seen it, like when they start zooming out. You've seen it? Yeah. Like it's like one house and then you zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, and you go into like the solar system and then you go into the galaxy. It's like in the planetarium.
There's other things like you put it next to each other, but like an asteroid, planet, another planet, star.
So lastly, this is again, so we spoke about man, we spoke about heavens and the earth, and now we're talking about the, you know, before like when Adam alayhi salam was born. So, was created, not born. So, in Surah Sa'ad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالَ يَا إِبْلِيسُ, He said to Iblis, مَا مَنَعَكَ أَن تَسْجُدَ لِمَا خَلَقْتُ بِيَدِي. What stops you from prostrating, from making sajda to the one I've made from my own hands? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking Iblis, why aren't you prostrating to Adam alayhi salam? I've made him myself. It is not upon us to try and figure out what is, you know, Allah's hands. We know that they're not anything like we can imagine, and they're not anything like our hands. Wallahu alam. The point of this is that he is asking Iblis, what stops you from bowing down and bowing, from prostrating? It doesn't mean like the kind of prostration that we make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This prostration is sort of a submission to, you know, a higher knowledge. Like Adam alayhi salam had more knowledge than Iblis. He had more power than Iblis. He was more respected than Iblis. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking him, what prevents you? Are you too high and mighty? So interestingly enough, in Surah Sa'ad, the previous ayahs, they talk about the different prophets and the different messengers that were sent. And the message was for the mushrikeen of Makkah. All the previous, the entire surah before, this is like the end of the surah. So it talks about, it's about refuting all the things that the mushrikeen used to say about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the ayahs also affirm Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's prophethood. Like they talk about, he's not a poet, you know, the words that come from his mouth are not poetry. Things like that are in Surah Sa'ad. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he talks about Iblis. What is the connection? Why, you know, in refuting the mushrikeen, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bringing up the story of Iblis? He's rejecting Adam alayhi salam. What is the commonality between the mushrikeen of Makkah and Iblis? What was the reason? Arrogance, right? Maria, were you going to say that too? Yeah, are you too high and mighty? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, and also all the previous messengers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in Surah Sa'ad, and also what happened to them when they did not believe in the message. And then look what happened to Iblis when he didn't prostrate, when he didn't give in. He was thrown out of heaven. He's like, you know, just gone for the eternity. So again, you know, just for us to think about creation, you know, how Allah has created us, and also what are we doing with His creation? And is there arrogance in any way, shape or form in our, you know, sometimes we deal with creation in a way that's a little arrogant, even when it comes to objects, right? Like we buy something, we won't take care of it, we'll leave it on the floor, you know, just like things in the house. You know, so why? Are you too high and mighty to bend down and take care of them and put them away? Right? These are things, these are ni'mas that Allah has given you, blessings that Allah has given you. So inshallah, we can learn to, you know, take care of creation, just like the Creator takes care of us. So at the end of every name, we try to do a dua that has the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in it. So Al-Khaliq, this is what I found. It's not a masnoon dua. I found it on, I think this is like some sheikh's dua. As'aluka bi ismika al-Khaliq al-Bari al-Musawwir an tamatta'ni bi sam'i wa basri wa quwwati. So Allah subhanahu so we're saying, we ask you, Allah al-Khaliq, الباري المصور أن تمتعني. Allow me to enjoy بسمعي, my what do you call it? Hearing, thank you. Basari, my eyesight. وقوتي, my power, my strength. Allow me to enjoy it. Sometimes you have all these things, but you don't make good use of it. You don't enjoy it, right? وأن تعينني على تحقيق عبادتك ظاهرا أو باطنا قولا وعملا, and aid me to fulfill my worship, the apparent of it, the hidden of it, in word or in speech. وأن تحسن خلقي كما أحسنت خلقي, and beautify my character like you have beautified my creation. I could have also pressed this and read from this. Instead, I decided to waste everybody's time and translate it here. So there it is. But I felt it's such a beautiful dua, we could add it to our, azkar in Ramadan. I keep forgetting that I have to compile all the duas and put them in the WhatsApp group. I keep forgetting to do that. But inshallah, maybe like now, there's some time in Ramadan, maybe I can find and start, putting these slides up, at least the ones that have the dua. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.